Monkey Music Show. Today by Todd Kerns. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm glad we could talk. I want
Me
to talk to you
too.
for a while because you're in so many different projects. You've been doing a lot. But
Yeah.
the main goal today is the new album, Blackbird Angels. You,
Yeah,
Tracy,
yeah.
and
We're real
Adam.
excited
Pretty
about it.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. We're super excited about it. And then we have Sam and Johnny for the proposed live version of the band if we ever get around to that. But, scheduling and all that, we'll see.
That's the amazing part because all of you guys have like 30 projects each, and I've had a bunch of almost different parts of the band on. So like I've had Sam on. Sam's in like 15 bands. Like everyone's in so many bands. I don't even know how you can coordinate it.
It's air traffic control, 100%. Like your calendar is constantly like, okay, when someone asks you, are you available for this? You got to go, I am, and you got to wedge that in. And it's such different times. I think it's funny that you bring that up because I was just saying the other day how everybody I know is in multiple projects. It seemed like
Mhm.
when I was a kid, everybody had a band,
One band.
and
Yeah.
we would often share drummers. So I noticed that often drummers would be able to bounce around for whatever reason. But yeah, everybody had a band and that was it. And now it's sort of, I think because the nature of the record business, I think has created I think that a band makes a record, goes out and tours. Unless you're planning on touring 365 days of the year, which I don't advise for anybody,
No.
that would be a grueling thing. But I think that what ends up happening is that you can only sort of work one thing before it sort of hits its wall of well, actually, what ends up happening is you can only do that for so long because then the other guy from that project he has to go out and do
Yeah.
Evanescence or something like that, so you kind of find something else to do. It's kind of a wild time and a very Renaissance time as far as like this is not very common and pretty unusual. But yeah, now everybody I know plays in multiple projects
I think
and
it's good. And I
yeah,
think when I started this, I started getting the idea of actually talking to Sam Man because he was such a young guy, but it's like young, hardworking, focused. Like there's not the bad boy rock and roll. Like because you're in a bunch of bands, you're working hard. And now we got the whole soccer mom thing where we're kind of scheduling soccer practice with all the bandmates, like get all different schedules and stuff. So it's you know what I mean? Like it's totally changed the dynamic. But on the other hand, you don't have like a band like early Aerosmith when you just tour forever and the band just does nothing else and they just implode.
yes,
But now
yes.
you got so many people doing so many projects, so like the creativity I would imagine is gonna be so much better because you're not stuck in this cycle forever of the same art, the same thing, the same this. You've got freedom.
And the cool thing for me is that I do other things. So, I'm playing bass on this. I'm playing bass and singing in this. I'm just singing on that. I play guitar over here. So to me, it's kind of more a case of like, I never really get the opportunity. I would never get bored anyway. I'm not the kind of guy to get bored, but it doesn't really get, I guess, complacent in any way. You never have the opportunity to phone it in because you're
Right.
constantly sort of using 100% of your brain at all times, it feels like.
Obviously, like, knowing you, the probably first time I saw you was probably like as a bass player in your Slash. But over time, getting to know the projects and stuff is all your other stuff. Being aware of you playing guitar and singing, and then you're singing on this album is incredible. I mean, you're not like a bass player that sings; you're like a singer that plays bass. Yeah, it's just, I mean, you got quite a range as a
Well, it's
vocalist.
funny to, oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's one of those things people say to me all the time. It's like, well, are you this or are you that? Or are you, and I always just say, look, I'm a musician. I kind of feel fortunate enough that I wake up every day and getting to talk to you or whatever is all based around playing
Yeah,
music. I mean, I'm obsessed with um, the entire thing. Music to
right.
me is what I first thing I think of when I wake up and the last thing I think about when I go to bed. Uh, my wife and my family are in there as well, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I get what
but
you're saying. No, I get what you're
but
saying. I'm the same way. I'm the same way with everything.
yeah,
So go to sleep, listen to it. I think
yeah.
that's the whole thing. But like, what do you think? You used to be like you get known for like one thing or maybe two things or doing a project. So like when I first heard you saying it was bass, and so I was not aware of the peripherals of like what your voice. And then I went back and I heard some of your solo stuff and it's good. The other albums and stuff. So I encourage you to go back and kind of do a deep dive too, because that's kind of what I did a little bit to get an idea of
Oh, I
other stuff you've
appreciate that.
done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really different stuff. And it's kind of varied. I mean, your solo albums are a lot different. I mean, your vocals on this new album though are totally different than because this it's just you're out of your mind singing some of these songs, like and I mean in a
I
good way. It's just
appreciate it.
like
Yeah.
it harkens
No,
back
I
to the day of
appreciate
just
that.
really good rock and you know, put
I
it in the
think
car
it's
and you
kind
could
of
turn it
like
and rock.
it was sort of I mean, with the intention of what the record was, it was nice to have someone like Tracy, and have a conversation where it's like, let's make this kind of record, like
Right.
a specific 70s Led Zeppelin
And he's in that
influenced.
mood. He's in the mood. Plus the that's all I hear about. Even Phil Lewis, I was talking to him, he's like Tracy's in this Led Zeppelin mode right now,
He
where
very much is. Yeah, yeah. He's got he's always got this is the check out this is the page tone from the Lemon song, and I'll be like, okay. Yeah, it's like, but I appreciate that. That's, I mean, a guy who's been doing it as long as he has still finds excitement every time he picks up the guitar, and I think that we share a sort of a passion and a a fascination with the entire rock and roll thing. So I think in making a record like this, where I don't know, I've always had the ability to kind of sing high and loud and screamy and all that kind of stuff. Living through the 90s where that became somewhat frowned upon,
yeah, that and
except
guitar solos.
yeah, yeah, it sort of changed the game. So as I was sort of like, really in the dawn of my particular career, the 90s were sort of the beginning, and it was sort of more like I had to look to guys like Chris Cornell and
Right. It felt like
those
a
guys.
rock singer doing singer songwriter. That's what your solo albums feel like because you can hear it in you, and knowing hear that album going back, I can hear that guy in you. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah,
was a little more not in the full rock vein. It had a little more of an alternative, but those were the days that
yeah. And then all of a sudden with something like Blackbird Angels, it's as if, someone just says, okay,
opened the vein.
they just let you out of a cage and
Right.
just go for it, and I kind of have had this sort of feeling lately in the past, you know, now that, it's funny to talk about because I feel like I still have 30 more years of doing this, but there's been a funny feeling of like,
Well, look at Mick Jagger. He's like 80 and he has a toddler and
exactly,
he's
yeah,
dancing on stage. So
I know.
the bar is
I
so
don't
high
have
for
that. I don't
everybody.
have that energy now. Yeah, it's
I
like,
don't
yeah,
either. I
yeah.
don't either.
But I just kind of feel like since post, like post lockdown and all that, there was a distinct feeling at that time that, I don't know about you, but I remember distinct conversations about like, maybe this is it. Maybe we won't be going on the road anymore. That entire business model or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it is gone. So at the time, I kind of felt like, well, we can continue to record. So a lot of these projects that I sort of attached myself to, I've got an insane cat over there. Um, they sort of popped up during that whole
Yeah.
process where I was like, well, I can't go out and play, but I can sure as hell stay home and write and record. So I'll do that. And with that, um, became the idea of, you know, when someone, throws down the gauntlet, it says, let's make a 70s rock kind of style record. It's kind of like, hell yeah, dude, let's do that. And you just sort of like go for it, dive in both feet and see what happens. To me, it's
Yeah.
kind of like uh, at the end of my life, I want there to be some variation. I want there to be some. It's interesting to look at guys like Jack White, and he does like the Rack on tours where he's playing in a band, and the White
Yeah.
Stripes is a totally different kind of thing. He's playing drums in the Dead Weather, and and I kind of and there's quite a number of those kinds of people that that I kind of look at and go, wow, that'd be so much fun. I mean, like to be able to just he's not doing that because he's run like one of those things has gone stale. It just seems like he's
No,
just
they're
kind of
all
like,
good.
yeah,
They're all good albums. It's funny
yeah,
you
let's do
reference those.
this now. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
those are
and
great
I kind of
albums
feel the
too.
same way. It's kind of like it's so fun to me because in the context of Blackbird Angels, I didn't play bass on the record.
Right.
With something like Heroes and Monsters, I play bass, and I sing. But on this, it was just sort of
Which is
like,
good. It's really good. Good album too, by the way. I just started checking out.
thank
I
you.
hadn't had a chance to lately. So much music, and I get so much music sent to me in my
I
mailbox. As you
bet.
can imagine,
I bet.
that was on my list. And I actually, before I got this album, I just popped it in. I'm like, oh, well, I haven't checked. Oh, that's Haas thing he's doing. And then like a week later, just get it from my mailbox. So yeah, it's
Oh,
good.
that's
So
awesome. I know it's. I mean, you're like me in that when you're on the music side of the fence and you're making the music, you have to compete with the exact same thing that my ears are competing with, because I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, there's new Dead Daisies music. I haven't
Yeah,
even had a chance to listen to this
I
yet,
haven't either. It's in my thing. I haven't loaded. I just haven't. Yeah,
Same thing. Yeah, it's like I'm constantly sort of like inundated with music to listen to. So I
and then
know
when it's
that
good, you're stuck too, because then you want to listen to that one over and over again, but you still have five more to catch up on.
exactly, and that's again is a good problem to have. But
Yeah,
um, it's interesting to me because as you're trying to release music, that the attention span, that it's ending up in people's play files, just kind of sitting there waiting to be played because they're having the same problem I'm having. But I kind of hope at the end of my life someone will go, this is Todd Kerns, and it'll go
mm-hmm.
from borrowing trouble, my acoustic, very delicate me in this room playing by myself record, to Blackbird Angels screaming
Yeah,
bloody murder kind of thing, and that's kind of the beauty of music to me, is it's kind of like I actually really consider myself to be fairly diverse taste wise. I really enjoy so many different things about music that I very rarely feel like there's anything that I kind of go, that's not for me, kind of thing.
yeah.
There's certain kinds of music that I don't gravitate towards, but I would always be up for the challenge if someone said, let's try and write this kind of song, or let's try and do this kind of thing. So there you go.
I think it makes a couple things, and you're the perfect timing for it too. With talk about the alternative and rock time coming up, and now I've been hitting COVID, and the model of everything changed of being in different bands. I started the podcast because, in a nutshell, I just do something else now. But I used to do music and I
Mm-hmm.
degree and stuff, and I have a bunch of different skills. And when I saw this happen, I know people in the music industry and stuff. I'm like, I want to do everything I can to promote them. That's why my name's not on the title or anything. It's literally just a labor of love that's just continued on.
Oh,
I wanted to
that's
keep
incredible.
saying, check these guys out. And all of my big about go to the website. Go to the website. The links are always the websites at the bottom of the show. That's it. So to that point, yeah, I was nervous too, and I wanted to keep the word out there as much as I can, even if it's 5 people or 3,000 people. It depends. Um,
Yeah.
but now the world's changed with you, and the diversity of looking back to like where things are. Because you feel like just put your albums, what band you're in now. The time so much, you're like it's gonna be everywhere, And you play all different instruments, you do all different types of music, and different bands. So how history's going to hold things now with the next generation is going to be kind of different. You know what I mean? Like because the model's different. There is no model right now for releasing music. I mean, you got this now, and it's got a big push, but then it'll be
Yeah.
the next thing again because you'll play out a little bit if you can, but it's not going to be like a tour cycle with this.
Yeah. I mean, especially considering everybody's schedules are such that, I mean, it would be up to guys like me and Tracy to say we're going to, take a bunch of time off from the things that, are our major focuses. I mean, LA Guns is making as strong a music right now as they've been making, since the beginning, in my opinion. I think that they're really leaning into they've, really kind of found
Yeah, their
that
comeback
new
came back. I think
thing.
this is the first time they've had the same energy collectively since Cocked and Loaded. No, or maybe the third album, Hollywood Vampires, and around that time. I think that's when they
Totally.
started to get beat up by I think the industry and everything else, like most bands, started to erode everything. The good music was there, but I think everything else kind of ate it. Because Vicious, Circle was really good too.
Yeah.
But
Well, that sort of, looking back at the '90s, that was what was consuming,
right, exactly. So this is
a lot of
you're right.
great
You're right.
stuff. A lot of great stuff got eaten up during that period that was, didn't have to necessarily be thrown out with the baby was
Yeah,
thrown out with the bathwater in a
it was
sense.
like
Yeah.
me and three other people were buying some of those albums at that point, going, "No, there's still some good stuff here."
I was
I
one
remember
of
having
them.
that cassette. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go. That's their sales right there. Basically, like, thank you. You're like handwritten notes to the five of us that bought that album. You know what I mean?
But it's funny that
Killing
you mentioned
Machine,
that
this is a good
because,
album.
yeah, exactly. The dawning of like all that music was happening, and I was sort of very inspired by all the new music. I wasn't one of those people that was kind of like, sitting in the corner like, oh, I'm not going to go to that party. I was like, no, there was a lot of amazing music that was coming out.
Yeah,
And some of the music that was dying off was kind of like, well, it had kind of run its course, but it didn't mean that there wasn't still great music being made by these guys. And it just unfortunately kind of had to, it's showbiz. It's brutal. It's not, yeah, you're not meant to be,
yeah. Well,
have,
it goes in cycles too. If you look at every 10 years, and what I was going to say that the thing is really weird for you, and the point we are at now is going to be interesting is when most people consume music, like people like you and I, and people like watch these shows and these podcasts, and people go back and watch Todd's podcast that he was doing when he was on the road and playing out. You got a great Todd Damon podcast. It's really awesome. Just like
Oh, thank you.
there's like three or four I watch consistently. I was watching, and yours was one of them. It was good, and
Thank
I hope
you.
you do more at some point. But I think what happens is like so. When you're younger, you get to a point where you get into high school and college, or you start working, or whatever you do. Those are your peak years for music because everyone attaches their memories to it. And a lot of
Totally.
people kind of check out and they're coming back now, later in life, around now this age, because their incomes become expendable. I think that's why M3 and the cruises and these flyout days are good for bands because it's easier than touring and it's better money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
totally.
and the fans can do that. I would do I just a show with my daughter, seeing and so it's like rejuvenated. But people that listen to music all the time, that's the hard one for you to get. You know what I mean? So you guys, this band is going to be pulling in the older fans of rock that have come back again. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. I
it's
mean,
a weird time to pull fans in. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's finding its new market is what it is. I think. You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah, it's you bring up some interesting points because when I live in Las Vegas, and I remember when I first was in Las Vegas, my first trips to Las Vegas, it would be like the billboards were the Four Tops, and and you'd be like, "Who the hell's in the Four Tops? Is anybody still alive?" And now it's I'm driving down the road going, "Foreigner," or yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, and you're thinking to yourself, "Who the hell's in Foreigner?"
I was going to say
But
some of the same questions. That even still.
exactly. It's all the same questions. It's just a different, generation of music. But the idea of
Every
rock
shot of
bands,
nah.
yeah, exactly, yeah, hard rock bands playing casinos or playing cruises, that wasn't a thing 20
Yeah,
years ago. Now it's, you know, um, I've done a bunch of them.
it
It's
makes
very
sense.
very normal, and like you say, it's sort of like the fact that bands are flying out and playing casinos in Poughkeepsie or, somewhere in Minnesota or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like you can go see Night Ranger or Warrant or whoever. It's like, but why wouldn't you? I mean, it's, the 20 years before it was, people sitting there, BJ
Yeah.
Thomas is here tonight or,
Yep.
or Engelbert Humperdinck, and as it shifts, it becomes something else. So now, but it does create a bigger conversation. And I've had a lot of conversations about this. What happens the day the Stones actually shut it down, the day Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr shut it down.
Right. Who's there?
Aerosmith and Kiss are both going away. It's sort of it becomes a bigger question of. I mean,
Who's
it's been
going to keep going?
fascinating watching sort of Blink 182 reunion being just this gigantic thing, and you go, well, there it is.
Yeah.
Those guys are the Heritage Act now. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
still think of those guys as like like something that just came out 5 years
Yeah, I
ago.
agree with
Yeah,
you. And
yeah,
I saw the live thing. I stumbled across it, and I was like, it was a good show. And the energy was fun. It felt good. It's like, you know,
I know. And then you're
it
like,
was just
Mark has
fun.
gray hair now. You're like, oh my God. It's like
I
it's just so just the sort of transition of the generations of rock and roll. To me, I always find it very exciting. Like my wife is a little bit younger than me. It's like, My Chemical Romance is back together. I'm like, cool. I'm
Ooh.
like, yeah. I'm like, I'm sort of like, hey, like I'm like the Who are coming to town. I'm sort of like in that mode. And I think that it's sort of it's exciting. I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm watching a lot of younger bands. I really like the Struts. I like that band from Italy called Maneskin. And then there's like Dirty Honey and bands like that who are
Yep.
doing very rock and roll kind of things. It's
It seems like Greta Van Fleet's going to go for that Zeppelin title. I mean,
yeah,
okay,
and of
I think they're
course
in a
they're
good spot for it.
yeah they definitely nail that. That's for sure. Yeah,
But they're getting the numbers, unlike Kingdom Come. So I guess you know.
true. Yeah,
But
yeah,
Robert Plant actually said something good about the singer though. So I think he called a little punk or something because he could sing so high.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah,
like you said in a funny way, like as a
yeah,
compliment, of course.
yeah. Like he's singing really high.
Yeah,
Fuck that guy, kind of thing.
yeah. It was
In
like
a good way. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, because they had also their own original type of music too. But I think the thing is, you're right with Led Zeppelin and Stones. There are no monster rock bands.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know if that's still they're going to be that. I mean, you'll have big bands like Blink, but I don't know. I think the days of the big rock bands are waning.
it's going to be interesting
AC/DC.
when Billy Joel and Elton John and the Eagles and everything sort of just kind of goes away. I suppose it makes room for like Blink-182 and My Chemical Romance. I don't
Right.
know. It becomes
Well, one of your bosses doing his work with GNR. I mean,
yeah, of course.
that's
I bypassed that one because it's so close to home. But I mean,
no,
watching
no, but
that get
I'll
yeah,
say, I mean, it's kind of been a great rejuvenation. I think clearly, Axel seems like he's back in his spot 'cause he has the band he wants, but he has the other two
yeah,
guys with him now. So now he has
yeah,
the perfect machine. You
yeah,
almost can feel the happiness and everybody together. It's the energy of the original Guns N' Roses.
totally.
Is I think part of their relationship.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
those three together has just revived it. That band is going to be one of the only, not the only bands, but a few, and Metallica and stuff, that are going to be doing this big thing for a while. I mean, they
Metallica.
still
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
energy in them. I mean, Slash looks great. He's working out. They all look good, like they're doing stuff.
yeah,
Duff, once again, Duff. That, by the way, that was a
yeah.
great interview you did with Duff, on
He's
your
the
show.
he's the greatest. Yeah, he's
He's
the
like
best.
he would be a bucket list for me because he's so smart. Um,
Yeah, he really is.
but to that point, I mean, those are the few bands. I mean, so they have some years left. But you're right. I don't know who's going to come in now young enough to get that big. Like Dirty Honey's good, but how do you get that big now? How do you, or any of those bands, Struts get that big now? They're
Yeah, I know. It's like even the ones that were big and kind of like the Cheap Tricks of the world. It's like
yep,
Cheap Trick was like the Ramones in that like you could kind of like just count on them being around. Most of us have seen Cheap Trick several times because they're
yep.
always kind of like, oh, they're back, let's go. But eventually, these people are not getting younger. And then, as whether it's Bob Barker or whoever, you're like, damn, you're watching your youth kind of
Go
pass
away.
on. And that's sort of, it's sort of a trip. And I don't know, I really don't know. I think that it's interesting to us because, as say, it might have made more sense for Tracy and I to sit down and go like, what if we made, some sort of like modern kind of,
No, we wouldn't be
but
talking.
yeah,
I'll
exactly.
be honest with you.
Yeah, it'd be
It wouldn't be
weird.
exciting.
It would be
It wouldn't be
weird.
exciting.
And
Yeah.
I think the fact that we actually sat down and said, you know what, let's just have a blast, like being in the garage together, just jamming out some stuff that we would love to do. And I think that that really, we sort of took the gloves off and just sort of, and the beauty of it in a lot of ways is that, I'm sure Tracy, I haven't had a whole lot of conversations with him about it, but I have been a product of, being signed to major labels and a lot of what I would call the songwriting hamster wheel, where they
Yeah.
sort of like, go write some songs, and you'd write them and demo them, and they'd be like, you'd demo five and they'd be like, that one's good, write some more. And you'd be like, okay. And you'd get back on the wheel. And the beauty of how it is these days is that the fact that you're not really, I don't really consider, like, I don't sit there going like, is this going to get on the radio? I'm like,
Right.
nothing's getting on the radio except, pop and hip hop and country, and rock has sort of become its own. I mean, obviously rock definitely has its own lane,
Right.
but I think the beauty of it is making music that's just kind of like, sounds good to me. I'm loving this. If I love this, that means somebody else is going to love this. But I'm not worrying about whether it's going to get on the radio or
Well,
not.
there's
It's
no
it's
corporate thing. There's that. It is internet radio now, and there's rock channels. There's Sirius.
totally,
There's a channel for every niche, not just rock. So it gives you
totally.
that openness. And then when these albums are done, you get these deals for these one albums. You can almost pick your own singles and do a. If you can't do a video, there's no budget for video. You can do a lyric video, or you can do this. There are options with the artist has more control. You know.
Absolutely. And I suppose in a lot of ways, I mean, I there's as many examples of bands that went on to be, super successful. And then you'll have those, those stories of back when they were selling records and whatever deal was signed, it's sort of like, although that song
Yeah.
was, they had a bunch of hits, but they never made a dime. It's the nature of this business that it's sort of like, it's a tough business. It can be pretty brutal, but by today's standards, it's kind of like, once you took away, once the downloading became so prevalent, it became kind of like a
Yeah.
non-versation. It just became like, okay, well, now we make music just to make music. Kiss and Aerosmith stopped making music 10, 15 years ago. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of like, other than like the Paul McCartneys of the world, who really has no reason to make music other than the fact that he just wants to go make music. Um, then I'm kind of like, great. I think I would probably be like Paul. I'd be like, hey, let's go knock some shit around. Let's like,
I don't
let's
think. I
have
think once
some
the
fun.
Beatles
Yeah,
broke up, he didn't even have to make any music. I mean, I think but his
true.
Wings, a band on the run. Like, I mean, he
Exactly.
just didn't like just because you love it.
He,
That's why you do it. That's
yeah,
why.
exactly.
It's why I do this show. That's why I put the time into make no money. It's just literally wanting people to say, I just got this great album sent to me, and I can't be. Everyone can't be talking to you. Everybody can't
Yeah.
talk to anybody. It's not like anybody's bigger than anybody. I mean, well, musicians are in a better spot where they can't talk about their music to everybody. But what I could do is say, be one of the representatives and say, hey, Vessel, talk to you.
Oh,
Check out this album. For a lot of
totally.
other people that just wouldn't have the opportunity to be exposed to it, you know,
Absolutely.
it's just good music. And I
And
think,
like within that change has been people like yourself who, back in the day, it was a radio show. Like you had to have a
yeah.
radio station and you had to have a thing. And even a college radio station was a thing, you had to kind of, be a part of that. But now it's
But
kind of
there's
like
rules to radio. I did radio for about three
always.
months, and I was not allowed to talk in the air, but I was still running the boards and stuff on the overnight. And I got in trouble for playing the wrong songs in the AM and FM radio just because I felt like mixing it up because I was the only one there. The guy in the Hawaiian
Yeah.
shirt, swear to God, he had a Hawaiian shirt and a cigar, and yelled at me. I'm like, I'm out of here. This is just like a Simpsons cartoon. But
Oh man. Yeah, no, and I think because of that, introducing people like yourself who are spreading the word and just only because you like music and you think this is a cool record, you should check it out. I think that has introduced a whole side of it too, whether it's a guy on YouTube talking about sneakers or video games. It's like I think it's created a whole new interactive world where you're not necessarily. We all have, especially back in the day, we all had somebody that you look to. I like his reviews on records,
right,
Peter Travers for movies or whoever, and you would think like, well, I like to hear this guy's thoughts on should I go see that movie or should I listen to this record, whatever it is. And but now it's sort of like, well, now it's just everyday people who are
yeah.
like, this is cool. And if you like Kiss or you like Aerosmith or you like whatever, this guy is really into that stuff, and I think you're going to dig this. Check this out. Yeah,
And I think it is hard. I mean, my person was Ricky Rackman because he had whoever he wanted on, and if he didn't like him, you could tell.
totally.
So having him on my show is really kind of cool to talk to him about that kind of things. But being a podcast, be on YouTube, and then having this, we'll have this show on YouTube, but it'll also be on Spotify and Amazon, everything else. And I couldn't even tell you like what's gonna be better. Sometimes when show goes, it's bigger than a podcast. It's bigger. Like you never know. It hits
No,
somewhere, but you can't figure out the age or the demographic of the music. I have different types of music on the show, so my fans.
yeah,
So anybody that follows a fan of the show is probably either really into a lot of music or just really confused. So like, what is he going to put up next week? I don't know if it's going to like it or not. Like, I try to introduce everything, and it's a new world. I wanted to stress people though, this album is good. It really is. Uh,
thank you.
Blackbird Angels, September 8th. How do you say the name of the title? The album title? What is it called?
It's so funny because I've been saying Soul Sort, and then
Yeah,
people keep saying Soul Sorte, and I'm like, I'm not
that's what we're
sure.
leaning towards. But I mispronounced more names
Well, it's a
on the
Danish
show.
word. It's a Danish word for blackbird.
Okay,
So, Tracy splits his time between Denmark and Los Angeles, basically.
yeah,
So he just one day he just sent me a mock-up of the album cover, and I go, I like that. I had to ask as well. I go, what does that mean? And he was like, Blackbird. And I go, perfect, done.
yeah,
There you go.
it's great.
Yeah.
Tell the people. So we kind of got a little side of it. There are 11 tracks on here. They crushed Traces and Guns, guitar, your vocals. Adam Hamilton who's just on my show. He's been on a few times.
He's the
Great
best.
musician, great producer, great musician. It's a great human
Absolutely.
being. You know,
Absolutely.
he's produced
Yeah.
some great albums here. Like I think it's almost like the Adam Hamilton show. Just talk about so many albums like he's done, which related to
Oh,
him on the show because he's done
100%.
so many great albums.
100%. Yeah, he's mega talented. It was funny because we did so much work together, remotely, that we kind of didn't really get to work, face to
Yeah,
face a lot. So it was kind of nice that we finally got around to doing making a music video so far, and that kind of stuff. So, and hopefully doing some shows. We'll see. Knock on wood.
that would be awesome. I want to thank you for taking the time. We had a little bump in the road for time. I want to wrap this up, keep it tight because I expect you all day, but I know you got other stuff to do. Thank you. People check out the album September 8th. Blackbird Angels, 11 killer tracks. I mean, Todd really just sings great, crazy high
Oh,
notes.
thank
And there's
you.
some really slow, I don't say there's some really great, slower kind of dimension. There's a lot of dynamics with different songs. They're not all just crazy songs. There's a lot of other different emotions and stuff. And they really
Yeah, it's
kind of run
true.
the gamut on it. And it's really, there's some other songs I didn't get into it, but there's a lot of really great songs that just are just such standout tracks every time you listen to it. So I encourage you to check it out when it comes out.
Thank you
and the
so
links will
much.
be below. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this
You,
again.
yeah. Well, when you have time, when
Uh,
all your 15 bands.
yeah, exactly. I'm sure we'll stumble across one another at some point.
Okay. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.